Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Myself and the lads are in the studio. Cracking few days of football, I have to say, and another vital few days coming up ahead. How are you doing, lads?
Yeah, good.
Absolutely splendid.
Very good, thank you, JP.
Right, good to be back. Good to have Premier League football back as well. Okay, straight into it. Friday night, 9 o'clock, Fulham against Wolves. Massive game at the bottom of the table. Fulham beaten 3-1 by Villa. And they were doing all right, but they were gifted a goal, I have to say. I watched the game, obviously, with bated breath, being a Newcastle fan, and I was really fearing the worst when Tyrone Mings put Mitrovic in, who just had to round the goalkeeper and roll it in. And with 20 minutes to go, I thought, we're in the bottom three. And then Villa made a substitution out of desperation, brought on Trezeguet, who banged in two, and Fulham just absolutely fell apart. Fulham, of course, lost the last three games. Now, Wolves have lost the last two. They lost 3-1 to West Ham, Fino. We'll go into that in a second. But are they looking over their shoulder on 35 points? And how bad were they, Fino, against West Ham? Or were West Ham too good?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bit of both, to be honest. I think Wolves were atrocious at the back. And then again, West Ham started well out of the blocks. But thinking about Fulham, more and more I'm starting to get the feeling that Fulham just really aren't the team that we thought they maybe were when they hit their purple patch. We thought that was them getting up to speed in the Premier League, and actually I think they just hit their top form and they managed to get a few results. And, the way that they defended against Villa, even when Trezeguet came on, it was naive at best. Having been gifted that goal, they just didn't see the game out at all. So given that both defences have been pretty leaky, I'm hoping for a high-scoring match to kick off the weekend.
You just asked, JP, are Wolves looking over their shoulder? And I think we need to remember, so Wolves are 9 points clear of Fulham with a game in hand. There is no way that Fulham are going to overturn a 9-point gap on Wolves. I think there's such a massive opportunity for Fulham, and to kind of capitulate like that in the last 50 minutes, I think that'll be really hard for them to kind of get back from that and overcome that. So I'd expect Wolves to win this one.
Just with 20 minutes to go, I mean, the emotions were, from going topsy-turvy, because Newcastle had a decent result against Tottenham. Okay, and if Villa can hold on here, we're still out of the bottom three. And then Fulham go up and you just think, wow, Fulham are out of the bottom three. We're in. How are we going to get out? And then, of course, it was an implosion, really. And once the first goal went in for Villa, they just fell apart at the back. And you could look at the sheer disbelief and disappointment on Scott Parker's face. And it's a must-win game. Wolves are not on form at all. I mean, really, their season's over. There's no cup games. There's nothing left for them. But yeah, I mean, Fulham, plenty of motivation here, and you should think Fulham will get the win. I just hope not. Moving on to Saturday, kicking us off at the Etihad, it's Manchester City, the champions-elect, against Leeds. Leeds were impressive in the Yorkshire derby, beat Sheffield United 2-1. Man City won 2-0 at Leicester, and it was all too comfortable. Really was. Look at it now. I mean, this might seem impossible, but is the quadruple possible?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it looks more. They've got more of a chance than they've had. Because we've been talking about quadruples with Man City lots of times, haven't we? I think this must be like the third or fourth season where it's been at least a possibility around about this time of the season. So yeah, I think they're the best team in England by a mile. They're the best team in Europe comfortably as well, because you look at obviously what happened to Liverpool in both those arenas, and then look at Bayern Munich, who are not what they were. You can't say Real Madrid really are that good. Honestly, who's going to stop them? The only thing I suppose, chances are, of course, they'll suffer a defeat, which may mean the quadruple won't happen. But I think they've got every chance of doing the European Cup and Premier League double this year, and they really should do it.
I think it would have been a very easy stick to beat Man City with that. Given how strange this season has been and teams have been taking points off of everyone and nobody really looked as if they wanted to win the league, it would have been a very easy stick to beat Man City with by saying that they were the best of a bad bunch. But actually, they've been the best by quite some margin this season, and it shows in the table. I think De Bruyne's ball for Jesus for their second goal was unbelievably good. If you've not seen it, I would recommend going on YouTube and checking it out. City will go on to romp the league. I can't see Leeds getting a look in here.
think that's a really good point you just made, Fino, because we've seen in the European competitions this year that the British teams are actually really strong in Europe. And Leicester are a really good team, and Man City beat them so easily. So they're not the best of a bad bunch at all. They're the best of actually a pretty strong bunch in European football. So I think it's more likely that they will win the quadruple than not, actually, which would be extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, we had this debate actually at the start of the season, just looking back to the Champions League last season. I had them nailed on to get to the final. Them, of course, or Bayern, who eventually won it, and they lost to Lyon. So cup football, anything can happen. This is what we ended up, discussing at the end of it. But basically, the results, it's a results business. Dortmund, sure, they've got Sancho, they've got Haaland, but I don't think that's enough to beat Man City. But cup football, you just never know. I think they got Man United in the cup semi-final, the FA Cup. Man United, of course, beat them in the league recently, so that could go either way. I'm sure they've got a great record in the League Cup. They're playing Tottenham, and judging by Tottenham's defensive performance at the weekend, I think City will walk that. So they're definitely going to win 2 at least. I think they deserve to win the treble at least, if not the Champions League, because they're so good to watch. And again, we go back to the same thing. They're doing the whole amazing season without a recognised striker. And yeah, you're right, Fino. De Bruyne for me is one of the players of the season, and that was an absolutely delicious pass. It really was for Jesus, who scored. Right, Kev, moving on, 4:00 on Saturday, Anfield. Liverpool hammered Arsenal really quite easily. The swagger is back. Diego Jota is back with a bang. He's scoring goals for Portugal. He scored a couple here quite easily. I thought Liverpool were very, very comfortable. Villa, were poor against Fulham, a poor Fulham team. There was no Grealish. There was talk he will be back for that one. He should be back for this one, but Liverpool surely looking for revenge for that 7-1 hammering, and you must be a little bit upbeat now, looking towards the back end of the season.
I mean, it's weird, isn't it? We're talking now on the night of the first leg against Real Madrid, and that's supposed to be a revenge mission as well, isn't it? That's what everyone's been talking about. So we'll see what happens there, but. Like I said last week, I don't think anything's changed much. Klopp's been sort of saying they've had a bit more time together on the training ground and stuff, and that's helped. I think that we're back to where Liverpool were at the start of the season, which is, or maybe just after the injury to Van Dijk, where you've still got maybe Jota, who looks like a little bag of tricks, doesn't he? Just looks like a little joker, and I think it was really good when they were able to bring him on. I think the difference is you've now got Fabinho back in midfield. You got Thiago starting to look like that might be a decent partnership, in midfield. The centre backs have got like a little bit of confidence back with Kabak and now Phillips, who no one would have expected those two to be playing at this stage of the season. So there's a bit more confidence, I think, in the team, but it's still so far away from being a great football team. So you never know, they might pull something out of the bag. Who knows? They might put a little run together, 6 or 7 games, but it's still just not a fantastic team. And I'd love to think that this will be the start of an amazing run, but I just think maybe they've just stabilized a little bit. It's still going to be really hard for them to get 5th. Whether they win this game, wow, it's been a long time since they scored a goal at Anfield.
I thought results-wise, Kev, it was fantastic for Liverpool, with that win basically ending any lingering hope Arsenal had. Chelsea and Tottenham dropping points. I think it's basically it could be a shootout really between West Ham, Liverpool, and Chelsea, and you got every chance.
Yeah, I mean, this, like I say, there's a little bit more confidence. Looks like a little bit more of a possibility. I want to be confident, but I would say, like, Liverpool do tend to do well in London, or they have done this year. They do tend to do very well against Arsenal. I think the test will be in this game, actually, and this is going to be fascinating. If they lay those ghosts, score 3 or 4 goals at Anfield, you'll start to think, okay, well, maybe that's behind them. So we'll see. I'm holding out my my opinion until we've seen this one.
Yeah, look, I think Liverpool, I'm not going to say they were back to their best against Arsenal. I think Arsenal looked pretty abject as well. Villa, really, I didn't think they were very good. Grealish not being there, I think, really hurt them. And in some ways, you kind of chalk that game up to a bit of a one-off. Trezeguet came on, he changed the game. But their defending, I'm surprised that Mings is getting all the plaudits, because I think that he's definitely the weaker of the 2 centre-backs. And if I was him, I would be looking over my shoulder in terms of the Euros as well. But yeah, I can't see anything other than a Liverpool win unless something major happens tonight in the Champions League. Either Liverpool go and beat Madrid 4-0 or whatever it is, or they lose 4-0 and the confidence is back down to rock bottom again. I think that this is going to be a fairly routine victory.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought that playing two recognised centre-backs would actually bring you a more stabilised team? They've done really well, haven't they? Those two young Liverpool centre-backs. So they're looking good. And actually, I think this is probably the more exciting race that's left in the Premier League, isn't it? The race to the top four. You've got West Ham in there doing really well. Liverpool in with a shout. Chelsea had an astonishing result at the weekend. Spurs as well. So I think it's going to be really, really exciting to see who gets that fourth spot.
Yeah, good point there, Fino, about Jack Grealish. And I just seen actually one of the TV channels, pulled up a graph as they normally do. Villa, their points and goals with Grealish and without Grealish, and it's astonishing. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is astonishing. And if Grealish comes back, they'll obviously have a chance. But yeah, I can only see a routine Liverpool win, and if they do get a good result against Madrid tonight, they'll just momentum will roll on, and yeah, it could be a hammering. We shall see. Time will tell. Moving on, the last game on Saturday night, 6:30 at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace against Chelsea. Palace dug in last night against Everton. Wasn't a great game. Went 1-0 down and got the equaliser, hung in there. Very frustrating for Everton. Of course, Palace, their season is over. Chelsea, what a game. Silva sent off. And for me, when they went 1-0 up with 10 men, okay, they're Chelsea and they're playing at home. But I thought it was a complete lack of lack of respect to shown to West Brom, because they didn't sit back at all. They just attacked and played on like they were, 11 aside. And West Brom picked them off. And the goals they scored, Pereira and Robinson, who was unbelievable as well. They really took their chances, took their goals really well. Shocking. Nobody would have picked that result. And just, it's come out recently as well in the last hour or two. Thomas Tuchel has spoke and said there was a heated argument between Kepa and Antonio. And, fair play to Tuchel for not messing about and coming out public. I mean, this will knock Chelsea for 5, but, they're Champions League hopes. I do think they'll come back, though, and have too much for Palace.
Only time will tell, won't it, if it was just a random result or whether whether they're not quite as good as we thought they were under Tuchel. I mean, who would ever have thought that the two games between West Brom and Chelsea would have produced 13 goals in the two games? It was just incredible. I think it is a bad result. And I think what's for Chelsea, even if you're down to 10 men, you should not be shipping 5 goals to West Brom. You just, I can't understand how that happened. I think we should give credit to West Brom. They obviously took their chances and played with an attacking threat that I wasn't convinced they had. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be a little bit concerned.
I think you chalk this one up and you go, right, we couldn't mitigate for Silva's red card, deserved red card all the same, but really only the first goal. I mean, the first goal was just Route 1 football and was atrocious defending, absolutely. But then when you've got a man advantage, all of these teams are good enough to make a man advantage count at this point in the season. It'll be interesting to see. I think Tuchel maybe did have one eye on the game against Porto, but Palace, I'm hoping that they can do West Ham another favour, but I don't know if I can see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Fino. Hoping, but not really expecting. I think it is just interesting. It's been a great honeymoon period, hasn't it, for Tuchel? They've looked, really solid. It's funny, barely looked like conceding a goal, and then they shipped 5, But yeah, this makes it really interesting because they do have that game coming up against Porto. They do have to now worry that they have got a lot to do if they're gonna get 4th. And now suddenly, they've got to think about, how do you bounce back from that? So, and it's a derby, of course, as well. Yet another derby, So I don't know. It's not a gimme, isn't it? It's more to think about than he would have liked.
I thought there was a hint of arrogance in it. I mean, they could have scored another goal and went down to 10 men to go 2-0 up, and that's what they were clearly looking for, as opposed to sitting back. If it was Newcastle, for example, they would have sat back and thought, right, let's hold what we have and try and defend this lead. But Chelsea maybe showed, like I said, a little bit of disrespect to West Brom, and they got punished. And it was kind of a thing where West Brom, every chance they had, they scored, which was, really great for the neutral to watch. Okay, moving on to Sunday, massive game at Turf Moor. Burnley against Newcastle. Burnley lost 3-2 to Southampton. Joe will come on to that in a minute. An absolute crazy game, but I thought they were denied a clear penalty. They really were. Dwight McNeil on the left wing really impressed me, and he impresses me every time I see him playing for Burnley. I think he'll be somewhere else, somewhere bigger next season. But, of all the kind of Burnley are doing well hype, they've only won one of the last 6. They're only 4 points above Newcastle. Now, Newcastle against Tottenham, I was shocked. It was a complete change of system. We went into the game with only one recognised centre half, who was Jamal Lascelles. He plays 2 fullbacks in Kraft, who effectively is crap. He's one of the worst fullbacks we've ever had. And Dummett, who couldn't come back in. Matt Ritchie, been in the wilderness for months, brought back in. Fire, creates the ball in the box for one of the goals, really got stuck in. This was a real workman-like performance from Newcastle. But the most shocking thing that happened here was I was in disbelief on my couch when Joe Linton scored. And I ran out to look out the window to see if the world had ended. That's how shocked I was. But of course, typical Newcastle, straight away, within less than 60 seconds, they make a howl of a mistake. Harry Kane comes in and he knocks the ball into net for the equaliser. And a few minutes later, Newcastle are opened up. Harry Kane, lethal. The guy's lethal. Brilliant finish. But Newcastle didn't give up the fight. And I thought they were the better team. Matt Ritchie was immense. Jacob Murphy on the right-hand side of midfield, who normally is a sub, started and he absolutely destroyed Reguilon, went past him with ease for most of the game. Joe Linton, I hate him, I slayed him, but he really got stuck in and, his header across, plus the goal, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Is there huge cause for optimism for Newcastle fans? No. I think they've lost one of the last 5, but 4 of those have been draws. Joe Linton has scored 2 goals for the season and 4 in 64. Burnley probably, like I said, they've won one of the last 6, drawn a few. I think some of this might depend on how the result goes on Friday. If Fulham win, will Newcastle go out and try and attack then, But if Wolves win, would Bruce then think, okay, Burnley will take a draw away from home? It's going to be, it's a massive game, really. But looking at the fixtures remaining for Newcastle, Man City, that's your game in hand. The Fulham gone. They're going to lose by a few goals there. You got Liverpool back on form. Man United, Leicester, massive game. Arsenal at home now. I was looking at it going, now I think we might get something. West Ham on form. We got West Ham at home. So the Sheffield United game at home and this one are vital for Newcastle if you're really thinking about staying in the league. Interesting stuff. Nail biting for me, and of course for you lads, it's exciting. Fino.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a pretty horrible way the games have fallen because I think, as you mentioned there, realistically, this is on paper the last game that Newcastle have a chance to put points on the board until mid-May. And if you go through that list of top teams, again, just that constant progression of, downward trends, not getting results, that sort of thing. If you can get 3 points here, I'm starting to believe that, Newcastle are going to probably keep themselves up by the skin of their teeth. Not because they're keeping themselves up, but I just don't think that Fulham are able to see the games out and get enough results to change that deficit.
Yeah, brave words, Fino. What I will say is that obviously, Sam Maxime only came on for the last 20 minutes. Callum Wilson wasn't back for this game. Those guys should be back. Wilson should be on the bench against Burnley. Burnley, route 1, very effective against Southampton. Ball down the middle, caused Southampton problems all day long into the Southampton central defence. But Southampton opened them up quite easily as well, and balls into the box, caused them problems too. So if you do play Jacob Murphy, you've got a chance. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'll take a draw. Everything hinders on Fulham. But I will say is this, that as a Newcastle fan, you do not want it going to the last game of the season at Craven Cottage. You lads do. Everyone else does, but we definitely don't, because that would just be horrifying. And I'd probably, check myself into the hospital with a heart attack straight away.
Yeah, a preemptive hospital visit. That's the way to do it.
Yes, Kev. Right, moving on, lads. 3:00. It's the top 4 clash. 3rd against 4th, Fino. West Ham 3-1 winners against Wolves, against Leicester, beaten comfortably by City. Leicester, of course, also have the FA Cup semi-final to look forward to. Now, I know from your kind of negativity, Fino, your texts, obviously there's no Declan Rice, so the rest of the next few games, There's no Antonio, but Lingard's really caught fire since he signed for West Ham, and I think they can go into this game with no fear at all. Really, I mean, I think it was Moyes or someone who came out and said, "Look, yeah," or was it the Mark Noble who came out and said, "Yeah, look, we've got nothing to lose, because if you win this game, then you're looking at the possibility of third place."
Yeah, look, we're in fourth absolutely on merit, and with 8 games to go, we'll be a point behind Leicester if we manage to win at the weekend. But it's really going to be tough. We talked last week about Leicester being one of the best teams that play football really well. And West Ham, for the first 30 minutes against Wolves, did play some really excellent football. Arguably, Lingard's first goal could be goal of the season contender, just the individual brilliance that he had. But like I said, Antonio going off again with what looked like a muscle injury. Souček took a dull one as well in the second half. Lingard could barely run at the end of the game. It's really tough, and we're going to be down to the bare bones. And the fact that we've not got Rice, we're putting in Mark Noble into the defensive midfield. He's just not got the legs to run for 90 minutes for a top 4 team. We do have a sneakily good run-in. Lots of teams that will probably likely know their fate by, the time that we play them. I think we played Burnley, Brighton, West Brom, Southampton. So we could easily take, 9, 12 points. Sorry, Joe. And that's without taking into consideration that we do also need to play Newcastle. So on the balance of it, you think that there is a very good chance that West Ham could make the top 4. I'm just far too scarred as a West Ham fan to even get my hopes remotely up.
I was going to say, I think you've definitely just cursed it, Fino.
Absolutely.
You're going to end up 6th.
Obviously, Rice will be a big loss. And Antonio, is the word, is it a serious injury? Is he out long term? Or
I don't know yet, but he didn't look very happy when he trundled off. And he trundled off after 30 minutes. He knew relatively soon that something wasn't right. And I think we'll just need to manage that going forward into those last 8 games.
Okay, moving on, 5:30 on Sunday at Tottenham against Manchester United. Spurs, of course, drew 2-2 with Newcastle. They were terrible in defence. Harry Kane was lethal as usual. Eric Lamela really impressed me when he came on. Man United, of course, beat Brighton from a goal down 2-1. Dug in, showed real resilience. Jose Mourinho's come out and said, at the end, he was questioned about, the team of old, the Chelsea teams of old and his teams of old who could hang on to leads. And he said, same manager, different players. And then the journalist basically said to him, well, does that mean that your players are not good enough? And obviously he wouldn't comment on that. But interesting stuff. Fino.
Yeah, well, Spurs have dropped 15 points from winning positions this season, which is a huge number of points to be dropping when you've managed to get yourselves in front. And I know that Mourinho says that it's not his fault. It has to be a mentality thing. I know Arsenal fans talk about Spursing things, but it really feels like there is a mentality issue there with the Spurs team in not being able to close games out. I actually think for United, that win against Brighton was much more important than is maybe being given credit for, considering if you think that they've maybe lost 2 strikers, with at least Martial being out likely for the rest of the season. I think that Man United, given that their away form generally over the course of the season and the way that things are trending, I think Man United go into this game with a bundle of confidence that they can really, solidify second place.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think it's done. I think they've got second now. I think it was a huge win for them coming after Leicester's defeat, and some of the other sides losing places as well. I think they can go into this with a heap of confidence now. I think Tottenham. You say mentality, I'm sure you're right. I think it may just also be the club doesn't seem very happy. The team doesn't seem to be very happy, does it? Like you said, JP, Mourinho making like veiled comments like that. I've heard that, there's some stuff about maybe he's concerned about leaks from the squad and stuff like that. He's trying to find out who might be criticising him in the press and stuff. They just don't seem to be happy. And it is weird, isn't it? Because you mentioned Kane again there as well. He's absolutely top of his game, really enjoying it, obviously really looking forward to the summer, and it just seems, how is that possible, But everything, the selection seems weird. The defence seemed weird. Like you said, they weren't very good, but I'm not sure I recognised all the players who were playing in that defence. It just seems a really weird lineup to me as well. So, yes, don't really understand what's going on there. When you consider, that win would have put them in a very strong position to take fourth, wouldn't it? If they'd have held on for that win. So, yeah, just doesn't seem to be very happy to me.
Moving on to what I think is the most meaningless game of the weekend. at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United, who are, for me, practically relegated, against Arsenal, who, I think lay down against Liverpool, their season's over. Sheffield United put up a fight against Leeds in the Yorkshire Derby, did okay. I think for Arsenal now, it's all about the Europa League. They got a nice draw. They should beat Prague, but that's where it is because, I thought they were very poor against Liverpool, laid down, especially once the goals went in. It was all over. And that their only hope really is the Europa League. Fino.
Yeah, I think 3 attempts and 1 corner against Liverpool sums it up. Brutal performance from Arsenal. I actually don't think that they go into the Slavia Prague game as favourites, considering that they knocked out both Rangers and Leicester. Leicester being considerably better than Arsenal over the course of a season. That Slavia Prague team is really good and very underrated, and I don't know whether or not Arsenal will be able to hold them at bay. There has to be a response here against Sheffield United, but yeah, as you say, totally meaningless game.
Moving on to Monday, 7 o'clock, West Brom against Southampton. West Brom, that mega win against Chelsea. Like I said, amazing finishing. Callum Robinson was brilliant. Is there whispers, though, in the dressing room, Joe? I mean, Southampton obviously are safe now, and you're going to concentrate on the Cup. But if you're Big Sam, who's never been relegated, surely the impossible is not possible.
I wouldn't have thought so, but I actually backed them to beat Southampton in this match for the reason that you just said. I think this match is more important for West Brom than it is for Southampton. I think the chance of playing in an FA Cup semi-final is a huge thing for Southampton. I think subconsciously for the players, it will be in the back of their minds. They won't want to get injured, so they may not go, for that 50-50 or for the block or for the second ball. So I think West Brom, I actually fancy them to beat Southampton in this one, purely because I just don't think Southampton will be giving it 100%. He may even make a couple of changes, to be honest. He may not play Danny Ings. Obviously, Danny Ings hadn't played for a few weeks, had been injured. Came back, he was involved in all 3 goals, which just shows you how important he is for Southampton. So he may be rested ahead of the FA Cup.
I think as well, you saw against Chelsea how good Mateus Pereira was. And seemingly he's only going to be £20 million worth in the summer in terms of a transfer. So, after his performance, you'll see a lot of teams sniffing around him, not just against Chelsea, but throughout the season. This could be a very good scouting mission for a team like Southampton when you think that, they're going to lose Minamino when he goes back to Liverpool. I could see him fitting in quite nicely at a team like Southampton.
Final game of the weekend on Monday night, Brighton against Everton. Brighton, of course, unlucky, played well, lost to Manchester United at Old Trafford. They need a few more points for safety, and if Newcastle can somehow beat Burnley and Fulham win, it's wide open, and Brighton are once again looking over their shoulders. They could be in trouble. Everton really need to win this game if they have any hopes of European football. That draw against Palace, they'll be looking at this game thinking, right, if we've got to push on, if we're going to make European football next season, we have to beat Brighton.
I think
Joe.
Brighton, while not being completely safe, I think they'll be fairly confident that they've done enough with those 2 wins on the bounce before the match against Man United. They actually played pretty well against Man United, and when they went 1-0 up, I actually thought that they might get something from the game, but it just didn't turn out like that. Everton are a strange one, aren't they? Not picking up the wins when they really need to. Seems to have gone off the ball a little bit. So I actually think Brighton will win this one and will completely confirm their safety.
Right, that's it from our very own DS Arnott AC12. Joe, Kev, we can't let you go just yet without another one of your masterpieces. What have you got for us, Gaffer?
Let's see how this works out. Hope you got the Easter you deserve, whatever faith you may observe. So churches, priests, observants, nuns, or chocolate eggs and hot cross buns. For me, this season ain't been funny, but on Saturday, the Easter Bunny left some goodies for us Reds as Jota tore the arse to shreds. Oh dear, that's an unpleasant picture. As Easter penance, I'll read some scripture, but Arsenal too should show contrition for offering scant opposition. As Jota came on with a bang, straight away he did his thing, headed in, then made it 3 after some Salah majesty. Can Liverpool's good form be trusted? We'll see. The top 2's done and dusted, but places 3 and 4 may yet be up for grabs with 8 games left. City had too much for Leicester, while their neighbours in Manchester snuck a 2-1 win, a tight one, against the plucky men from Brighton. 2 spots left for 6 to scrap for. Could Everton sneak in the back door? I don't know. A 1-1 draw at home to Palace just seems poor. Perhaps they lost their concentration, daydreaming of a nice vacation. But as their thoughts turned to Hawaii, up popped Michi Batshuayi. As rhymes go, that might be rock bottom. But just as bad were poor old Tottenham, who, despite a brace from Harry Kane, threw away 2 points again. All credit to Newcastle's fighters. But who on earth were those poor blighters playing in the Spurs' defence? Jose's selections make no sense. Chelsea too were sans aplomb, conceding 5 to West Brom. Midfield AWOL, defending brutal, a shocking first defeat for Tuchel. So who ended the weekend delighted? None other than West Ham United. An injury to Rice, you say? No problem based on this display. These Hammers, they're having a laugh as Lingard ran from his own half to get the first and soon would be Fornells for 2, Bowen for 3. That proved only just enough as Wolves came back to make it tough, but I fancy them to finish 4th and pip their rivals from the north. Because Liverpool, after such deception, I just don't buy this Easter resurrection. But all I know, my rule of thumb, is that there'll be more twists to come. For drama, this season's a beauty, as baffling as Line of Duty. Oh my God, here's an idea, something that could make it all clear. My grasp of plot is slender, son, but is H. Jordan Henderson? It may be all that could explain this crazy Premier League campaign.
Brilliant stuff, Kev. Cheers, lads. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
This has been the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Enjoy the games. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.